And then get comfortable, grab something to maybe write with, take some notes, get some water. Okay, so we are right at the top of the hour, so I'm going to just go ahead and get started. I'm super excited for today. I'm sure that you are all also excited. This is one of my favorite webinars to do, and hopefully it's one that you will also love as well. Before we get started, I always like to pose this question just to kind of see where everyone is on this. How many self-published books do you think launch every year? So go ahead and give it your best guess. How many self-published books do you think launch each year? If you said something along the lines of 2.3 million, you would be correct. So there are 2.3 million self-published books that launch every single year. So that being said, we're going to get into today a little bit about the importance of differentiating ourselves, get a little bit more into, what is it, if we do decide to self-publish, what does that look like? So for today's webinar, we're not just going to talk about self-published books, we're going to talk about traditionally published books as well. So my goal and my promise to you is that by the end of this today, you should be able to understand the ins and outs of publishing, learn how to generate income from your book, and to do this all without publishing contracts, sharing royalties with a publisher, or bulk buying your own book. So those are some things that, some of those things might sound brand new to you, like, oh, I've never even heard of having to bulk buy my own book. What does that mean? So we're going to go through all of that today. So don't worry if some of that language is brand new for you. It's all going to be beneficial. So let's go ahead and jump right in. All right. So what I need for you to do is just to take the next 60 to 90 minutes to just kind of block out distractions, just kind of be focused in here, especially if publishing your book is something that's really important to you, it's something that's dear and it's on your heart, then you're going to want to be able to participate. So you're going to get the most out of this while actively, I'm going to post some questions, answer the questions, and also, feel free to, if there's any questions that you have, right, you want to jot those down. So the goal for this is really for you to be here to learn. So try to be, fully intentional, blocking out any distractions that you may be having, but also it's important to finish what you start, right? So it's less about how you start and more about how you finish. So if you give me the next 60 to 90 minutes of your time, I'm going to show you that publishing your book is possible and you can make a profit from it. So what I need you to do is just stay on until the end, and those who stay until the end, you'll also get a special offer. So just you want to stay on with me through the whole thing. Okay. All right, so a little bit about myself, just to do a little quick introduction. So my name is Daniela Ordonez. I am a story creation coach, a 4 times best-selling author. I'm also recently won an award for one of my books, which is super exciting. I'm both traditionally and self-published, so I've gone through the experience of both. And a lot of what I present here today is going to talk about the different pros and cons sort of both. You might find that I find one a little more appealing over the other, and probably by the end of this, you'll understand why. I have both a bachelor's and master's in English literature and writing, so that puts me in a unique position to not only be able to, edit or anything like that, but also to really help people to look at the form of their writing, right? The flow of their writing, and then adding in, the work that I've done with marketing, especially around story marketing. I'm also able to see what is going to fit for a certain audience. So that is a unique vantage point that people have in working with me as a coach. I have a postmaster's certificate in secondary education English, which just means I have a lot of tools in my tool belt and different ways to teach it. And, it doesn't matter kind of what your background is or where you come from or what level of education that you have. I've helped people to be able to get their books out there. It's the dream of becoming an author is something that I think is possible for anyone. Okay, anyone can do this with the right help and the right support. I'm also the CEO of this awesome company, Tell Your Story Coaching, and I've helped several write and self-publish their books. And I'm also an inner healing prayer minister, so that's something a little bit unique aspect that we have to that. And so yeah, I have a tool belt of activities and different things that I can do to help you to get to where you need to go. So that's a little bit about me as a coach. And what I want you to know, one of the things that's unique about why you're here, there's a lot of coaches out there, there's a lot of people out there that are in this space, right? We know there's a ton of different publishers or publishing support or whatever it is. And for me, one of the things that I think is unique is the clients that I've worked with that have implemented what I've told them to do, and they followed up and they stayed on track with things. The time to market their book, the time from like starting to getting it to market was very, very fast. So I've actually been able to help folks write their books in as little as 90 days through my Think, Speak, Create framework. And we've done that within 30 days, and we've gotten to market within 60 days. So I've been able to go from a seed of a book all the way to launching that book bestseller within 90 days. So surprising even myself from my own framework, but it's been done through with some clients, which has been awesome. And the success of working with any coach largely depends on your ability to implement the work. So, we're going to guide you, we're going to show you, we're going to tell you what we know, but it also depends on implementation. So at the end of today, you're also going to have a couple options of ways that you could, if you do decide, hey, I want to get my book published, there are going to be a couple options of more of like a DIY kind of thing that you can do. And then also, if it's like, no, Daniela, I need you to help me with this, you can do this for me. There's also going to be those options as well. So a lot of that will depend on you, right? Your own motivation level, and if that's something that would work for you. Okay. So I want you to know that those of you that are here, this is for you if you have written a book or you have a nearly complete manuscript. So pretty much, if you're in the really early starting phases of this might not be, the best for you. But if you are someone who's already written or you're getting close to being completed, then this is a really good time to be plugged into this. And if you just want to grow and to learn, so you're thinking for the future, totally okay as well. So if you've published before, but you want to do things differently, maybe you're not happy with your initial publishing experience and you want to learn how to do something in a different way, or maybe you've never published before and you're looking for options. So what does all this entail? This is maybe brand new for some of you. Okay. So I want to tell you a little bit about my story, a little bit about the publishing history that I have, and why I feel so passionate about what I do now and how I've been able to help people now. And a big part of that is because 4 years ago, oh, I'm sorry, not 4 years ago. It took me 4 years to write my first book. It took me a long time to do it. But in that process of writing, I, didn't know anything about publishing, right? I was like, okay, well, what is this going to look like? Somebody had mentioned self-publishing. It didn't seem like something that I wanted to do because I thought that if you self-published, then that meant that you weren't reputable, right? Like you wanted a publishing house to back you in order to get that level of, I don't know, it's like success, or people would look at you in a different way. This is what I thought initially. So I was totally closed off to the idea of self-publishing. I really just wanted to get my book out there with a reputable publisher. And because of that, I ended up getting signed to a well-known publishing house, and I got signed to a well-known publishing house. And a big piece of this was ending up wasting a lot of money, right? I wasted a lot of money. I wasted a lot of time. When I'd first, signed the contract, I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. I'm so excited. I'm going to be it really, my book is going to go to all the people that it needs to go to. I'm going to make a ton of sales. I'm going to be doing speaking engagements. I had all of the dream that was there, only to be met with not that story, okay? Only to be met with sadness, okay? Because at the end of this, I ended up, getting my first royalty check, and it was, I think, like $100. It wasn't anything, to write home about. And I remember just being really frustrated because of the amount that I invested versus what I was getting in return. Now, granted, when I signed that initial publishing contract, I had an idea in my mind that it was going to sell. I was going to do all this stuff. I had this sort of dream, but I didn't realize that there was a gap between the dream to get there and where the role of a publisher sort of ends. And so what happened for me is I ended up not really getting a whole lot of royalty for my book. I didn't make a whole lot of sales. I didn't have access to a detailed sales report. That was one thing that was a little strange to me. It was just kind of like, okay, well, here's how many were sold in the quarter. They didn't really differentiate between ebooks or print books. It was really just like, okay, well, this is what it was, and there wasn't a lot of information that was given to me. I mean, information that was probably needed, right? I mean, we want to know how our book is doing. We want to know, maybe some of that information is useful. And so I had no idea. So I was a little put off by the experience, and I had no control over the marketing. I really had no control other than buying a bunch of copies of my own book from the publisher at the wholesale price, and then still having to sell them on my own. So that was another thing. It was like, okay, well, I wrote this book. I put my blood, my sweat, my tears into this book. This is my life experience in this, and I go to the publisher. I sign the contract, thinking it's going to result in something that it totally didn't. And a lot of these companies go off of knowing, hey, we're a publisher, right? You want to also be published with the big, names that are out there, right? So that we publish them, we're also going to publish you. So they kind of go off of that. They go off of that kind of dream. And what happened in the publishing industry is that they recognized that there was a need for people who don't have a big emailing list. They don't have a whole bunch of connections or people that they can sell to essentially. And so they still want to help you, right, quote unquote, help you to get your book out there, make it available, but you end up becoming responsible for a bulk of the marketing. You end up becoming responsible for bulk buying your book and doing your own speaking engagements, or even if you want to get it into a store, right? They told me, well, if you want to get this into Barnes and Noble so other people can see it, then guess what? You have to go make the phone call. You need to do it. We make it available for them to buy, but you need to be the one, that takes the step to be able to get in there and to do it. So, so this was a really big, this was a really big thing for me, even in my own story. Now, I want to share a little bit of this here that we have. So the first piece, so this is my first book. The cover's okay. I wasn't crazy about it. When I first saw it, I'm like, yeah, it's all right. Like, you only got a certain amount. I really just wasn't, I feel like this is something I probably could have done myself on Canva. I could have created this. And the last time I looked, my book was selling, my paperback was selling for $3.20. $3.20, guys. That is not good. Okay. So I was really, really frustrated at this. And one of the things that I recognized was that, okay, there's something different that can be done. I knew there had to be something else, right? Because I was super excited. Here I am, I'm an author. And what payment am I getting at $3.20 for a paperback book? Not much, okay? Especially when you look at royalties and things like that. But I had no control over this. So because I was contracted, I had no control over any of this. So what I want to ask, I'm going to throw out a question for you, and I want you to think about who owns the rights to a traditionally published book? And this is sort of a trick question, but I want you to think about it, right? Write it down. Who owns the rights to a traditionally published book? You might think right away, me. You might also think, well, maybe the publisher, right? So in some circumstances, the answer is it depends. And what do I mean by that? In a lot of contracts, in a lot of cases, who owns the rights? You own the right of the written work itself. So that raw manuscript that you submit to a publisher, technically, you own the right to that. But what you don't own the right to most times is the cover, the formatted pages on the inside. Usually you don't own the rights to those things. Those are under the publisher. So technically what happens is the publisher is contracting you and to sell, for the right to sell your work. So that's what they're doing. So that's where the royalty comes in. So it really becomes in the hands of the publisher. So at the end of a contracted term, that cover art, everything that made it what it is, a physical product, I don't really own that. I don't really have access to that. So that's why they can do whatever they want. They can make my purchase price whatever they want, because really they own the product. I own the words inside. That's it. So, now I can't say if that is the case for every single publishing contract, but I know that that is pretty much industry standard. So that's a really important thing for you guys to think about. Okay. Is that something that you want? Do you want to maintain freedom and control over your own work, over your own words? So, one thing that I want for people to know is that there's freedom, okay? There is freedom in being able to self-publish. Here's a book that we were able to do, and we came with other authors and we put together this book, and there was the ability to go beyond what I was able to do with my first book. So even when you're in that kind of contract, you're limited in what you're able to do. But when you self-publish or you go the realm of, doing this without the contracts and all of that, you have freedom, right? I don't have to, ask a publisher or something, hey, can I work with this branding or take, what's happening here in this cover and can I do this over here? I don't have to have contracts or to deal with that. This is my branding for this. I can do whatever I want with it. I can create conferences. I can do my own marketing push strategies. I can delay it. I could redo it. I can do whatever I want to do. I have access to sales reports, all of that. And the reason that I have that, right, and I've been able to learn that, oh, I want to get a #1 new release in Christian inspiration. Boom. I was able to do it because I had control over the marketing process because I did it on my own terms, right? Not with a contract. So this is huge. Now let's talk a little bit about what it means to be traditionally published. Now, when I say traditionally published, most people that talk about traditional publishing are really people who get into when you think about 1% of authors. So typically what happens is when you finish a manuscript, you'll send it off to different publishers, and those publishers will decide, hey, we want to publish your book or we don't want to publish your book. And there's not any kind of payment. Usually in that situation, you'll get what's called an advance. So they might say, hey, well, you will give you a $25,000 advance when the sales, the sales and royalties recoup to 25,000, then we'll start giving you a check. But until then, we give you an upfront check because you sold the publisher the right to sell and to distribute your work. Now, does that happen for the 99% of authors out there? No. Okay, this is for people who have big audiences, who know that the book is going to sell, and they know that they can market it in such a way to a wide audience. Now, traditionally published also likes to kind of hide under cost share publishing. And cost share publishing is what most people find themselves in, where they're paying the publisher to produce their book, but you're now also stuck in a contract with royalties and all of that. So in my way of looking at this, it sounds a little scammy, okay? And I say that because I don't want to tread toes, but it sounds like a scam. So I put all this effort into it. I know they know that I want a physical product in my hand. So the only way to them that they can make a physical product is, hey, we can do this. We can print it for you. We can create the cover, do all the things, but you're going to pay us to do it. And on top of paying us to do it, we're also going to take a royalty from you to keep it going. Wait a minute, that is not traditional publishing, okay? And again, only 1% of authors end up in this form of traditional publishing. So how does this work anyway? So if you were to do the cost share thing with the contract, with the royalty, with the publisher, you're looking at maybe 10 to 15% of it of royalty. So let's say that book retails for $25, right? Your royalty would end up being $250. That's one straight way to know, okay, calculate what is the amount I'm getting per book sale. Some offer a higher structure, like 30 or 40% royalty for you, okay? If you were to go that way, what happens is they have the main price. So whatever is the main cost, then they take that main cost of producing that book, they take out the cost to print. So that same book that retails for $25 on whatever websites and sites they get it on, they will then take off the amount it costs to wholesale. So what they do is they'll sell it. We'll sell it to Barnes and Nobles. We'll sell it to Amazon. We'll do that. They'll buy it from us, and that comes off kind of shaved off of that price. So you have 25 bucks. Now you're down, oh, we're working with 15. Then you keep going from there. Whatever the cost of print also comes out. So then what you get as the author is the percentage off of what's left over. Okay, it's not gross, it's the net. Okay, the net amount. So most people don't understand this. So when they sign a contract, they think, oh, I'm getting a 40% royalty share. Yes, yeah, 40% after all of those things have been deducted. So you still end up with hardly anything. So in this situation, you're looking at $3.60 per book to the author, and the publisher is still making a royalty off of that. Plus, they're making money because they sold your book to wholesalers. Are you guys starting to smell the scam aspect of this yet? So as I said, 1% of book contractors are not cost share, meaning they, what they're responsible for, publishing and distribution. Okay. So this is why I said when I did my book, I was like, wait a minute, something doesn't smell too right here. Okay. So just to give you a little bit of a better sense of what this looks like. So again, a publisher owns the rights to produce and distribute your book. That's what you signed over. That's the contract. And what they do is they'll print it and then they sell it to retailers at a wholesale price, which is usually like 50% of retail. So if they're gonna retail for 20 bucks, they'll sell it to a wholesaler for 10. And then that wholesaler can sell your book for $12. They can sell it for $15, which in a way also creates competition with you, because if you go to an event and you want to sell your book and you want to sell your book for $20, but it's on so and so website.com because the wholesaler bought it for $15, you just created competition for yourself, right? So again, you want control over the price, you want control over all of that. So what happens after the wholesale price is it gets sent to retailers and outlets. And like I mentioned in my story, what the person who signed me into the contract explained to me was that it's up to me to get it into those stores. So just because it's available in the catalog where they buy from doesn't mean it's going to appear on the shelves, right? I have to still do the hard work. So now I'm like giving you the right to sell my thing, and I'm also having to sell it and push the book. Like, what? That's not what I hired you for. So anyway, a lot of times it ends up being made available online. So they'll be like, oh, we'll get it on Walmart.com. Right, but not on the Walmart shelves. This is where when you're looking at these contracts, you have to ask, and then sales to customer. And then the publisher sort of acts as that middle person, and then they'll also give whatever's left over from that percentage of royalty will get paid to you, okay, via the sale, through the sale. Now, what makes this different is what I love, which is having freedom over your own structure, over your own selling. So in a case, let's say you worked with Amazon, okay? Amazon KDP is my favorite. I love using Amazon for a lot of reasons, and I'm going to show you why. But it's because in a case with Amazon, it's a 70-30 split. So instead of like the 60-40, where you're the one on the lower end with the traditional publishers, you as the author get 70%, about 70%. And there's a little variation between 60 and 70, depending on how much the book retails for, but it's about 70%. And the Amazon is the distributor and the printer. So what just happened here was that we just cut out the middle person, right? And this is what they don't want you to know. This is what I don't, well, let me go back. Yeah. So this is what they don't want you to know. This is what publishers try to kind of get around by promoting status, is that you don't need them, right? At the end of the day, you don't actually need them because of places like Amazon. So because Amazon acts as both distributor and printer, you don't actually need to sign that publishing contract unless they're planning on doing some crazy PR for you. They're going to send you out and, do all this stuff, which some of them do a little bit of. But unless they're planning and you have a really nice contract, right, and you have a business built out, or you have something else where you're profiting from that, more than likely it's a bad deal. Okay. Because then what happens is Amazon keeps about the 30% because they do act as that publisher and distributor. And then it goes sells to customer. Now, the nice thing about this is it's not where the sales are happening beforehand and that gets taken out of your royalty. With this, it's direct pay. So I'm a customer. I go to Amazon, I see a book, I buy the book. The book is 20 bucks. I paid that 20 bucks. Amazon takes out, their portion to print and for distribution, and then you get the 70%. And it's that simple. That's it. You don't have to wait and get a little minuscule amount at the end. So Self-publishing books work a little bit differently, and here's just another example of what these numbers could look like. So let's say it retails for $20. You can cut out the wholesale. Now there is option for wholesale to make it available on different distribution platforms apart from Amazon, but Amazon rewards those who keep their books solely on Amazon. So you can actually make more by doing that. So in this case, I went with if you were to do exclusive with Amazon. Amazon print costs maybe $3.40, $4. It depends on how many pages and if you're printing in color or black and white. And then the royalty there being after all of that, about $8. So your royalty is $8.60. And that's for a book that retailed for $5 less than the other example that I gave you through a traditional publisher. So as far as book sales are concerned, your best bet is self-publishing. Okay, I want to say 9 out of 10 times, literally, right? We talked about 99% for 99% of people versus those 1% who get those contracts. So low print costs, no shipping costs with Prime. This makes it really great as well because when I ordered bulk books from a traditional publisher, I actually ended up having to pay like $60 in shipping to send me 12 books. I can go buy 12 books on Amazon, pay zero in shipping because I have a Prime membership. So like I said, when you talk about dominating the field in some area, this is definitely a better option for both author and consumer, right? So again, that small portion going to Amazon. So let's talk a little bit about Amazon publishing. So KDP, which stands for Kindle Direct Publishing, allows authors to self-publish ebooks, paperbacks, and hardcovers, which is awesome. So you get a little bit of a variety there. And I say books for free because you're not paying them to do it. It's up there, you upload the files, and you're good to go. And they also allows you to create a product detail page for the book, which is really nice. So if somebody's like, hey, I love this book from this author, you click on their page and you have other books and titles. So if you search my name, you'll see all the books that I'm a part of. And then that actually helps with consumers, right? That are like, hey, I really love this book. I want more of what this person writes. So they have instant access. So it's a little bit of a nice marketing feature that's for any author. You're able to expand the book's availability globally, and you keep full rights to your book. Amazon's not claiming that they own your book. Now, Amazon does claim for ebooks, by the way, that they do claim an exclusivity. Like you should read that where like let's say you have an ebook and you're trying to sell it by yourself on your website, that's actually conflict. So if you make it available through Kindle, it should only be through Kindle. Okay, so that's another thing just to think about. But KDP offers a fixed 60% rate on paperbacks. Again, we talked about 60 versus 70, depending on number of pages and other factors. But paperbacks sold on Amazon marketplaces, and you get paid every 90 days. So I had to wait a whole year before my first royalty check traditional published, but I only waited 90 days. I get a payout every 90 days for my books that are selling on Amazon, which is amazing, right? So I don't have to wait. It's just, oh, boom, in my account, ready to go. And I have access to all those sales reports. I can see demographics. I can see when things sold, where they sold. That's amazing information to push for more marketing as well. So, which I didn't have access to on traditional publishing. All right, so let's talk about Amazon print quality. So Amazon can be a little finicky when it comes to print quality, and this is where some people get a little frustrated because they try to do the whole DIY thing, and then they're like, okay, this looks DIY. And so what is Amazon print quality? There's formatting specifications, right? This is part of typography, which has to do with the margins. So when you're looking at the book, the white space around it is the margins, or the design, right? Have you ever read a book and it has a nice little design in there? Well, that didn't happen on its own. It didn't happen in your raw manuscript. There's a formatter who does that and works with that. Also, it's important to know that when you're doing an ebook is a different, totally different animal than doing a print book. So again, these are kind of two separate things that you have going on, but it can be done DIY or it can be done with publishing support. So there's also spelling and error check, and this can stop publishing for you. So let's say you upload something, it wasn't edited well. If there's a lot of spelling errors, it will actually not print your book. Like it'll say, sorry, no, you need to fix these and then re-upload it and do it again. So they have certain things to make sure that the quality of what is being produced is going to be good for a buyer, right? Because they're also concerned when they're marketing, Amazon's marketing for you, they want to make sure that they're also selling it too, right? So they want to increase their sales and increase their revenue. There's also cover specifications. So some people who DIY this do end up with maybe copyright issues, and then or type when you think of typography, like how it's laid out makes a big difference, right? Your cover is so important. But when you go to upload it into KDP, there are specific dimensions that are needed in order to make sure that everything uploads properly, and there is a way to be able to do that. So that's also important to know. Okay. KDP, some of the KDP resources that they have. So again, if you choose the route of DIYing this, you can get page formatting templates. They have a cover calculator. So you put in some information and it tells you, what are the specifications of your cover, what it should be if you create it yourself. They also have a cover creator. So right inside of the actual uploading area to upload your book, there's a cover creator. And there's also a royalty calculator. So if you want to know how much royalty you're going to get, you put in some information when you're ready to publish and it calculates it for you. And there's also marketing support. So there's different endeavors that they push. They say, hey, you can do it as a 99-cent push or something else. And it'll actually push your book out to other buyers that might be interested in what you have. So if you ever got an email that's like, hey, did you love this purchase from, that you purchased last week? Well, then you're going to love this. And if the algorithms, Amazon's algorithms are powerful, right? And so they're actually working for you and for your book, which is awesome, right? It's added marketing that you don't ever have to do. And then I like the fact that there's connectability. So you can, if you go into the realm of doing an Audible, we actually had a client who did an audiobook. So if you go to her page, we helped her to get, she has like over 19 reviews, 5-star reviews on her thing. She hit bestseller. Like she was like star client. Okay. She went in there, she did it, and she has an Audible version as well. And all these things are connected. So she has her paperback, her ebook. She doesn't have a hardback yet. Maybe that'll be next, but you can connect all these things. So there's ways for you to expand and to reach a wider audience and increase your income as well. One thing that I do want to say about the resources here on Amazon, and we're going to talk about some of the pros and cons of this, is that when you're looking at things like page formatting or the cover, just guys stick around, because when I get into talking more about the cover, I'm going to tell you some of the pros and cons of using that, but I want you to know that it's available to you, right? So here's a resource for you where literally you can kind of cut out the middleman, right? And being able to do that. Okay. So as I was explaining, when it comes to publishing, you're thinking print and distribution. So Amazon has global distribution. So this is what's awesome about Amazon is a lot of places, right? Amazon's in the UK, Amazon is in Europe, Amazon is in it and is in Japan, right? It's in Canada. So your book can appear globally. That's amazing, right? To know that your book has the ability to be distributed globally is incredible. And you don't have to do anything other than upload it and say, yep, I want it to be available in all these stores. And so this is what's really amazing about the way Amazon's distribution center works, is that you're reaching a global audience. And for some people that hear that, that might sound a little scary, like, what do you mean global audience? That's crazy. But in reality, that's what we want. We want our message in front of more eyes. We want our message to be impacting the people that we took the hard time to sit there and to write the book. So we really want it to be able to get out there and not sit on the virtual shelves like mine at $3.40 for a paperback, which is crazy. That's like cut. That's pretty much like, hey, we're cutting our losses, and just you're not going to get pretty much anything from that. So pretty much what happened there. All right, so I want to share with you. This is a story of a woman named Angelina. Now, Angelina had a cost share contract, and I'm not going to tell you the name because, like I said, there's a lot of these types of companies out there. I'm not going to tell you the name. It doesn't really matter. But for this case, I want you to know about what happened to her book. As you can see, there was minimal work done. So at the bottom photo there in the blue, that's the work that they did, which it's okay, right? It's not It's not something to write home about, but it's all right. It's not so bad. But it's not so great either, in my opinion, having worked with a lot of different types of books. But it was very minimal. Like when you opened it up, it was very minimal. Like I could have typed this up myself. I think it was maybe in Times New Roman. Like there wasn't anything to write home about. She had zero marketing support. It was the whole situation, book, buy your book, go to churches, sell it, go from there. And that company ended up going bankrupt. And guess what? She now didn't have any more access to her published book. Her book was gone, right? Because she didn't own the files. She didn't own the formatted pages. She didn't own the cover. She didn't have access to that. She was depending on the publisher to print and distribute. So, and what's interesting is when she did this shortly after they went bankrupt, so she never even got a royalty check. So, yeah, her book made sales. She never got a check, okay, which is probably extremely illegal, but this is what can happen. And this is the risk that you run. Now, in some universe where we say, okay, maybe Amazon, something happens at Amazon, everything goes down. Guess what? It's not the end of the world because you still have the files. You still have the formatted pages. You still have access to the ebook. You still have access. So if Amazon goes bankrupt for whatever reason, you can go to another company and boom, another self-publishing company and start over, right? You can still do it. So is there risk and everything? Of course there is, but do I think Amazon's going anywhere anytime soon? No, I don't. Just as much as I think, Apple's doing pretty well and all these other companies, I think Amazon's going to do okay. And they're only growing and only expanding. So, anyway, this is what we did when we took her book. We took that where it was out of print, wasn't impacting anyone. She was like, I don't really even know what else to do. And we relaunched her book and we gave it a nice new cover. Now you could tell it's about breast cancer awareness. You couldn't tell that before. So we put a little more thought and heart into her cover, and she's doing well. So she really enjoys it. Now it's available, and she's getting her royalty check every 90 days. So you can definitely see the difference here between the two products. Okay, so what do people want when it comes to publishing? They want high quality and it needs to be properly marketed. Now, one of the number one things that I hear from people that, let me not say number one, but it's something that I hear often is, I don't really care about the sales, I just want it published. And when I hear people say that, I'm like, I want to reevaluate that statement because you're, I don't believe at the depth of my heart. I think that people, yes, I want my story out there. It's important, really. But when it comes to the end of that time to get that royalty check and you end up with like $20, you're gonna be like, what was this really worth it? So I mean, in reality, if your message is not reaching the people you want it to reach, then you have to ask yourself that question as well. Like, was it successful? Right? So yeah, maybe it's successful in the fact that I got my book out there, but if I'm doing it not being motivated by the money factor, it still needs to be properly marketed because then it's not going to reach the people you want it to reach. So these are really the two core things, despite whatever your motivations are, high quality plus being properly marketed. Okay, those are so important for your publishing. So what we do is we do something called self-publishing support. So pretty much everything like a publisher would do, but without the contracts, we don't take royalties. You actually learn the process with us. So there's a coaching element involved there. And we give you all of the services that a publisher would give you, and we take you beyond the book. So we help you to get everything on there so you can upload and do it and be successful and prosperous with it and move forward. So that's just want to just throw this out there. This is a little bit about what we do as far as what we call ourselves self-publishing support, where we're not like a traditional publisher, but we help you to do everything in a way that is high quality and that is going to give you, some of the results and help you to kind of take those steps to those sort of results beyond the book. Okay, so what I'm going to do, we're going to get into the process here. I'm going to take a sip of water though, because I've been talking a lot and I need a sip of water. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about the process. Now, when it comes to publishing, now at this point, you're probably thinking, okay, I think I want to go self-publishing, or maybe you still want to try the traditional publishing route. Hey, whatever you want to do, that's up to you, right? But what I'm hoping that you'll get from this is that there's freedom in going the route of self-publishing. So if you did decide to do that, whichever way you go, you're gonna need to know the process of what's involved with publishing. Now, there's really four key areas that we're gonna talk about when it comes to publishing, so you know what to expect. And the first is editing. So the first step of any type of publishing is editing the book. And professional editing can be a little costly, but it's definitely worth it. So there's four types of editing. The first is content or developmental editing. And this is something that we actually do with all of our packages. So anybody who goes through us, we actually offer um, a type of this, which is called a manuscript review, and we actually give you feedback on your writing. So if there's other things you might want to change, or you're not so sure about how some of it is flowing, before you submit for what is called copy editing, we want to make sure that you're happy with what you've produced. And that's where the coaching element comes in, and we're a little different. So that's what content developmental editing is. It's when someone will go through your manuscript. Hey, what you have here in chapter 2 maybe doesn't align with your overall theme, or what you have here in chapter 5 might work better in chapter 2, right? So that's part of developmental or content editing. Then you have what's called a line edit. A line edit is probably one of the most expensive types next to a content developmental edit, but a line edit is going line by line. Like, this is every line in your manuscript. I'm going through step by step by step by step to make sure it's done. And then you have copy editing. Copy editing is not trying to rewrite your work. Copy editing is, do you have capitals, right? Is your punctuation correct? What is the syntax correct? So it's going to look at that. It's going to do some, looking at grammar and things like this, but it's really not going to be as intense as, let's say, a line edit. And then the last thing you have is proofreading. So proofreading is what it sounds like. It's let me proof this. And usually proofreading is that last step after you've gone through a copy edit. Now, what happens in some cases is that people will submit their manuscript after they think they're ready, and then they'll say, oh, well, my good friend wants to help me with it or whatever. That's not the point. You submit for professional editing. You do all of that beforehand, right? Send it off to sister so and so and your cousins and your aunties and whoever else. Like, they read it before you submit for professional editing, because most editors will not allow you more than like a couple rounds, where it's like one round of editing. Do you approve? Great, then we move on. If not, you can actually incur more charges. So that's one thing to know if you've never edited before. And very important for you to be successful with editing. And then also, when it comes to that aspect, is if you're adding bulk amounts and you're doing copy editing, there's sometimes a disconnect between the editor and the author, because they have a different expectation of, well, I'm going to add in more paragraphs and all this other stuff. And if that work's already been edited, you'll probably end up getting charged more with whoever is editing your work. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about some editing options. So you can self-edit. Grammarly is a pretty good resource. People tend to like Grammarly, but Grammarly does take more time, and there's a higher margin for error, especially with just the free one. But it is a good tool. So if you've done your best, you're getting ready to submit it, you can run it through Grammarly. Sometimes Grammarly doesn't get it right. It can be wrong as well. But it's a good kind of tool to work with to help with some of your grammar. And then some people choose to go the low cost service on Fiverr, and nothing against Fiverr. You can get some stuff done there for a cheap amount. But yes, they'll offer quick turnaround times. Hey, you'll have it in 24 hours and 48 hours. And it might be low cost, but usually what you find there are novice editors, or those who maybe English might not be their primary language. And again, nothing wrong with that, but the best editor is going to be somebody who's a native speaker, or somebody who has the education in that. Also, you may run copyright issues. If somebody's brand new at editing, there might be things that could get you into legal trouble, that if it's not edited properly, if like for example, if you have song lyrics in there and you don't have the right to actually publish those lyrics, you can get sued. So you need to have somebody who knows what they're doing. And yeah, that may take a little bit of an investment, right, to hire a professional. But when you look at all the various services, it can get costly. Okay, it can really get costly. So it's really important to also know that no reputable publisher will allow you to publish without editing. So some people will say, hey, can you just create this for me or do this? And you can go that route. But if you're going with someone, even if it's like a cost share or something like with what we do, we will require that there's a level of editing done. And usually that happens after the manuscript review because you can't rely on other people's work. You have people come in and say that, but you really can't rely on that. And you want somebody who's professional to be able to help you. And I always say friends mean well, but it's like asking a DIY carpenter to build your house, right? You might have learned a thing or two from your classes, or maybe, hey, I was good in English class, which is great. And it can help as a preliminary, but is not something I would recommend. It's like if I said, hey, I learned how to, build my whole house on YouTube, great. But I probably want to hire a carpenter. Okay. So it's a similar thing. You don't want to cut corners. They say surveys show that people stop reading if they encounter too many errors in a book. Right, so that's editing. The next part of this is, oh, actually, it's not publishing and distribution. We're actually going to talk about your cover. Okay, so choosing a cover. This is a part of publishing. And your cover is so important. It is your first point of contact. When people scroll, whether it's on Amazon or you're in a store and you're walking by, you're looking at the cover. That's the first thing that's going to draw your attention, right? And in a lot of cases, unfortunately, the cover makes or breaks a book's success. So I can't tell you how important the cover is. And this is what I was saying earlier about some of the DIY projects can run the risk of others having the same or similar book. So I added this example because this is Lizzie. So Lizzie gave me this picture up here. She created that. Nothing wrong with what she created. However, the images that she used, I think she did it through Canva, but the images that she used and the the way that this was done, I actually ended up seeing it on two other books because I see a lot of I'm in different groups and things like that people post. I saw the pretty much the same looking thing for two other people who published their book. So why is that important? Because you don't want two of the same covers, right? You want your cover to be unique. You want it to stand out. You want it to look professional. And so again, nothing wrong with even going to Fiverr or using Easy Cover Creator or Canva book template. That's what the word I was looking for was template. Canva book templates or the KDP cover creator. But keep in mind, there's a limited number of templates. And then that means that out of those other 2.3 million people who are self-publishing, most of them also have access to those templates and those covers as well. So you run the risk of looking like other books. And so, like I said, your cover is so important. And so when you do go the route of working with a professional in this, they're going to look at typography, color design, elements, and they're going to give you, a couple of options to choose from to work with your branding. So this is what we ended up coming up with. And she was super happy with what we came up with. Okay. Then I want to talk about page formatting. So most people, when they think, oh, well, how does it get into a book or how does it get laid out on the pages? This is important because a lot of times we think about the actual manuscript, right? Okay, how do I take this, what's on like an 8 by 11, printer page size thing and put it into something, into a book? And that is actually done by someone. Someone does that, and it's through your formatting. So this is page design. Now, print and ebooks require different types of formatting. So some people think, well, if you do one, you could do both. And it's not necessarily the case. If you want it to look professional, maybe you want a clickable table of contents. There's a program that needs to be used for that. There might be design elements that are part of that. And what I've seen happen with some people is when they upload it, they get what's called an error message. And again, that error message will prevent you from publishing. So even though KDP makes it easy for anyone to do it, this part can get become a headache for some people. And so and then again, another option, usually you have something like Fiverr, but again, you end up with sort of simplistic work from what I've seen. Okay, again, not knocking Fiverr. Some people have some really great stuff in there, I'm sure. But I always say you're gonna do the best when you have somebody that really knows what they're doing. So this is something that we did here. with another book that we did. And on the inside, you can see we added some design elements. We went with whatever he wanted. And we added some things in the back for people to connect with a program that he's doing. They scan that QR code. We put in some other books that he has already published so people can connect. So these are all things that we think through because of the coaching element that's involved. Whereas, when people sort of DIY this, they might not be thinking about that or having a coach to think, how do we do this for the long term, or how do we help funnel people into your programs or whatever else if you have them? And this is one way that we would do that. Okay. So the last piece of this is marketing. Okay. Oh, marketing. For some people, that's a scary word. It's like a curse word. For other people, you're like, yeah, marketing. So marketing budget. So this is really interesting. So I took this from, can't remember which website. This was about from a publishing website, and it talked about how 80% of the book's advance is usually part of the marketing budget. So publishers will spend a lot of money on the marketing aspect. So if you have a 5,000 book advance, again, this is for a 1% author or somebody who might be in a cost share situation that has a really good contract somehow, which is like a unicorn. But if that is the case, $5,000 book advance, and you can expect the publisher to spend about 4,000 of that on marketing. So they're paying for marketing in this situation. So those upfront payments are made to the author or paid against future royalty payments, which we talked about. And this usually only makes sense for celebrity authors who are 5, 6, and 7-figure advances. So, if you're a big name, they know it's going to sell, they'll offer you a 6-figure advance, but that's when it makes sense, right? Not for the self-published author who's just starting out. Okay. And it's not that you can't get your name there. I always tell folks that I work with that, hey, we want to get you out there. We want to help you build. We want you to be that person that has a following and all of that. So, if you do end up getting a 1% contract, woo, that's awesome. But you might actually already be able to stay in the self-published range and still be successful and not have to do the contract. But if that's your goal, then you should at least work towards producing and building in the meantime, right? Not waiting for the publisher to do all the work. So, marketing is another important piece to this. If you do no marketing, then your book won't sell, right? This is simple math, right? Marketing, no sales. But if you do it on your own, right, you can end up burned out. You can end up feeling overwhelmed. So we don't want you to feel that. We don't want you to be burnt out. We don't want you to be overwhelmed. One of the things that we focus on doing is we actually teach our bestseller strategy. We also talk about launch support, which is huge because when I published my first book, they didn't tell me anything about launch support. I didn't even know that I was supposed to have a book launch. What is a book launch? Like, just publish it, do it for me. And yeah, a book launch is so important. And there's ways to also capitalize on that book launch. If you have other things going on, you have a business, you have a ministry or something like that, we're always thinking of how we can expand and grow you. So we want to teach you the process and generate multiple opportunities as well. So this could result in maybe speaking engagements, right? Things like that. We're always looking at how can we help you to step into everything that you've been called to do. And some of what we teach are free ad methods as well as how to grow your social media. And for some people, you're like, yeah, I don't care. I just want to get the book out there. Fine. But consider we want to get your message out to the right audience, right? We want, even if it's not just about sales for you, it's still important that your words get to the right people. Okay. So let's buckle up for a moment. Let's talk about sales because sales is one reason some of us do choose to publish, because we want passive income. Right? Books are a form of passive income. I can be sleeping and someone's buying my book, right? We have the global distribution thing going on. So something I've always said is that the only way a publisher can make money is through book sales, but it's not the only way an author can make money. If that can be burned into your brain when you're in this journey, please let it be there, like at the forefront of your thinking. The only way a publisher can make money is through book sales, right? Print and distribute. Without you, they're not making money. But it's not the only way an author can make money. An author can make money in so many different ways. So the publisher is only focused on the book sales. You as an author can be doing so many other things. Okay. So I shared this earlier about traditionally published book, just to give you a little bit of a reminder when it comes to sales. So in a traditional publishing kind of situation or cost share under a traditional publisher, you're looking at a lower royalty, right? Between $1 and $3 is pretty much what it is. So between $1 and $3 per book sale goes to you, the author, for all of your hard work. And in order for you to recoup, like let's say I like the number of $10,000 because 10,000 is what some people actually invest, right? Some people invest about $10,000 for a publisher, and they don't end up seeing that for whatever reason. But a lot of that might go into marketing, or they pay less and then they pay more into marketing later on. So if we went about the number of 10,000, it would take you to sell between 3,333 and 10,000 books to recoup that common investment of about $10,000. So that's a lot of books to sell, okay? Especially if your email list doesn't look that large. But under an Amazon royalty structure, you're looking at maybe $4 to $10 per book sale. Sounds a lot better. And that means for you to make $10,000, you need to sell between 1,000 and 2,500 books, which again is a lot different of a number than, between almost 3,500 and $10,000. So or 10,000 copies. So it's a lower amount of copies to make that amount. And I always say this is good. It's not best. What's best is having something in place that you can also do to be able to push yourself forward. So if you align your book to go with a business or to go with like if you're doing like a course or a ministry, something, because usually what I find with people when they publish is that there is something in their heart that connects with that book. And in some cases it might not be, that's okay, but I see this so often. And there's ways to position your book and to utilize the launch to be able to take advantage of that and to make more income. So just to give you some numbers, the average self-published book sells about 250 copies through the life of it. 90% of self-published books sell less than 100 copies in the first year, and about 20% of self-published authors report making no income at all from their books. So that's I uploaded it and it died, right? What happened? That's when they're scratching their head like, what happened? Why am I not getting any royalty? Well, something happened in the marketing or something happened in the positioning of the book where you could have been making sales through other mediums. So one of the things that we do in our Launch Academy is that we not only talk about like how to make more book sales, but how to make sustainable income through the book is really what we focus on, because your book can take you to more places than you might even be imagining. Okay, so I want to share with you Vanessa. Vanessa came to us with one line. She didn't think anybody wanted to read her book. She didn't think what she had to say was important. And we worked with her from the very seed of what she was doing to having one line for the book, which ended up becoming the title of her book, I Was Born in Africa. And in less than a year, she launched her book. She got out her heart healing business going. She brought attention to her missions in Uganda. She came and spoke at our conference in New York last year, and she's actually coming back this year, which we're having a conference, and she's going to be there. So excited to have her again. She's coming all the way from the UK to good old New York. And she's done podcasts, she's done like all kinds of things. So her life transformed dramatically in a matter of a year. So I always say for the people that are like, oh, like I'm stuck, like what a book does is it opens up so many doors that you probably wouldn't even imagine. I remember when I was trying to get my first book done, I told you it took me 4 years to write it, that God just kept telling me, like, just get the book out there. Like, trust me on the rest, get the book out there. And the book kind of acted as a door, and it opened up so many other things that I could have never imagined. So for those of you who are thinking, oh, like you're feeling imposter syndrome or anything like that, if you feel called to do this book, get this book out there. Like God is going to restore you. God is going to give it back to you like 100-fold. And it might not be in that first year. It might not be, there's other things he might be wanting you to set up for yourself to get there. But I've seen God do amazing things when people have been obedient to publish their books. I've seen it time and time again. And this is what we deal with in our Launch Academy. So just wanted to share an example of a really cool story with Vanessa. So I want to ask you guys the question, what is standing in the way of achieving your publishing dreams? If before it was you didn't have an answer, you didn't know where to go with this, now you should have some way forward, right? Maybe you have a little more understanding of how the publishing industry works. And it's like, okay, well, what are my next steps? What can I do next to make this happen? And so I want to invite you into an opportunity to book a call with me. So we have what's called our Publishing Solutions call. You're going to get an email with a breakdown of the different services and packages that we have. And we're actually doing two different options. This is actually something new. So we have our done for you services. As I said, we're self-publishing support. So we act in the same way and do everything that your publisher would do with Amazon KDP acting as your distributor and so on. So we give you all the files, we create it for you. But we're also doing a DIY bootcamp. So if you really want to do the DIY option or you're thinking of price points, the DIY option might be good for you. So that's going to be a 3-hour intensive with me. And you're still going to do it yourself, but I'll walk you through some of the process of how to do that and also what things to look for, right? To make sure you're not hitting those error messages and things like that. So yeah, so go ahead and I want to invite you to book that call. After you've read through, we're going to send you an email with all that information. So after you've gone through it, but you want to book that call today. And for those of you who book that call today, we're going to give you a copy of these slides, okay, to download. And you're going to have lifetime access to the replay of this. This is super important. And so you're going to want to make sure to do that just for booking this call. So you're going to get that literally just for booking this call. We'll give you the slides, we'll give you the replay to this because there was a lot of information in there. And I'm sure that some of you want to chew this over probably again and again, especially in your process of being able to do that. And the second bonus is that if any package is purchased with us through the webinar, we're going to actually give you lifetime access to our Influencer Launch Academy, which is so huge. So, because we want to help you guys to go beyond in your book, we want to help you to launch into all the other things, amazing things that God has for you. So, yeah. So here's the three things again. So you're going to book a call, and we're going to look at those two options together, and then you're going to get the bonus when you book today, and then you'll also get the second bonus of the package purchase if the package is purchased coming into the Launch Academy as part of that. All right. So thank you guys all so much for joining. And yeah, so I look forward to connecting with you. Like I said, go ahead, get that call booked. And yeah, feel free to go ahead and jump in there. And I look forward to getting to meet with you and to help you really to unpack your next steps. So even if you don't end up, coming into one of our programs, something, it's okay. You're going to get a chance to be in that call with me and we can see what is the best route for you. Some people I recommend other ways as well. So just feel free to go ahead and grab that call with me and I can help you out and to get to that next level of what God has for you. So thank you all so much for watching and I will see y'all soon.